The sky above the Mediterranean shimmered in the pale morning light, calm and deceptively serene, when radar screens aboard a U.S. Navy carrier lit up with something that would soon explode into headlines worldwide. A swarm of 30 hostile drones had been launched in a coordinated strike, their purpose clear: overwhelm defenses, probe for weaknesses, and perhaps even land a crippling blow against Allied assets in the region. These weren't hobbyist drones or cheap recon devices. They were advanced, fast, and deadly, capable of carrying warheads and disrupting electronic systems. Their numbers alone posed a grave threat. 30 drones, spread wide across the horizon, moved like a living organism, weaving in formation, calculating their approach with chilling precision. The order went out immediately. 12 F-15 fighter jets were scrambled to intercept. What happened in the next hour became one of the most shocking aerial confrontations in recent memory. Pilots strapped in with the urgency of men who knew seconds mattered. Engines roared as the F-15s catapulted off the carrier deck, afterburners igniting with blazing trails. The sound was thunder rolling across the sea, announcing that the United States was not about to let 30 drones slip through. Inside the cockpits, pilots checked systems with muscle memory honed over thousands of flight hours. Radar screens glowed with dozens of moving blips, each representing an incoming threat. Adrenaline surged, but their voices over comms remained steady, clipped, professional. Eagle 1 airborne. Targets confirmed. Vectoring east. The drones came on fast, flying low to the water at first, then splitting into 3 groups. They climbed to staggered altitudes, forcing the F-15s to divide and conquer. The tactical intent was obvious: saturate the defense, force human pilots to make impossible choices, and let a handful of drones slip past. But the Americans had faced swarming tactics before, and this time they were ready. The first missiles locked on from 20 miles out. A ripple of contrails streaked across the sky as the F-15s fired in unison. The missiles screamed into the formation, detonating with blossoms of fire. 5 drones were shredded instantly, their debris tumbling into the sea. Cheers crackled briefly over the radio, but no one relaxed. 25 remained, and they were still closing fast. The drones responded with unexpected ferocity. Some carried jammers, flooding frequencies with static, momentarily disrupting communications between aircraft. Others fired their own small, but lethal air-to-air munitions. One drone got lucky, sending a missile streaking dangerously close to an F-15 before flaring off at the last second. The pilots weaved and banked, countermeasures flaring, their sleek jets cutting arcs of smoke and heat against the morning sky. The engagement had shifted from long-range interception to close-quarters combat, and the U.S. fighters dove headfirst into the storm. Dogfighting drones was unlike fighting manned aircraft. Drones had no fear, no hesitation, no concern for survival. They could perform suicidal maneuvers, sacrificing themselves to damage a jet or force it into evasive patterns. One drone dived directly at Eagle 5's nose, exploding in a fireball just short of impact. Shrapnel rattled against the canopy, the pilot's heart hammering as he pulled up hard, narrowly avoiding catastrophe. Another drone banked sharply, flying almost perpendicular to the ground, something no human pilot could sustain. Only sheer training and superior machinery allowed the F-15s to keep up, their engines straining as pilots fought physics itself to stay in control. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Over comms, voices called out kills and warnings. Splash 2. Splash 3. Brake left. Drone on your 6. The choreography was breathtaking. 12 jets against a swarm that never tired, never panicked. Every missile counted. Every burst of cannon fire had to hit. Ammunition wasn't infinite, and the realization weighed heavy as the drone numbers whittled down but refused to vanish entirely. At one point, 6 drones coordinated an attack on a single F-15, diving from multiple angles. The pilot rolled inverted, diving toward the sea in a desperate gamble. The drones followed, but at the last second, he pulled up, his jet screaming vertically. The drones, unable to match the maneuver, plunged into the water, detonating in a series of thunderous splashes. The pilot's voice came over comms, breathless but steady. Threat neutralized. From the carrier below, sailors watched through binoculars and screens as the battle unfolded overhead. To them, the sky looked alive with streaks of light, blossoms of flame, and the deafening roar of jet engines echoing over the waves. It was a ballet of war, terrifying and mesmerizing all at once. Every hit drew cheers, every near miss tightened throats. The entire ship seemed to hold its breath as the confrontation dragged on. Halfway through the clash, the drones attempted a new tactic. 10 of them broke off, climbing high into the stratosphere, attempting to arc around the intercepting fighters and dive toward the carrier strike group itself. It was the nightmare scenario. Even a few drones making it through could wreak havoc on the ships below. Captain Hensley, commanding from the carrier bridge, issued the order with iron calm: do not let them through. Redirect immediately. For F-15s peeled off, climbing steeply after the breakaway group. The chase was harrowing. The drones had altitude advantage and were dropping fast. Missiles streaked upward, slamming into the lead drones, tearing them apart mid-dive. But a handful pressed on, closing the distance. The F-15s fired cannon bursts in rapid succession, tracers ripping through the sky. At the last moment, the final drones disintegrated, raining debris into the sea less than 20 miles from the carrier group. The ship's sailors exhaled collectively, the danger averted by seconds. By now, the original 30 drones had been reduced to fewer than 10. Smoke trailed across the horizon where wreckage burned. The surviving drones scattered, breaking into pairs, trying to prolong the fight. The F-15s hunted them down relentlessly. One by one, radar locks buzzed in cockpits, sidewinders fired, and explosions flared. The last drone tried a suicidal dive straight at Eagle 9. The pilot rolled, fired his Vulcan cannon in a sweeping arc, and the drone shattered into fragments that rained harmlessly into the ocean below. After nearly an hour of non-stop combat, silence returned. The sky, once alive with fire, settled back into pale morning calm. The F-15s regrouped, pilots exchanging clipped confirmations of kills and fuel levels. All 12 jets remained in the sky. There had been close calls, near misses, and terrifying moments, but not a single pilot was lost. 30 drones had been launched, and 30 drones now lay at the bottom of the sea. Back on the carrier, the atmosphere was electric. Sailors erupted into applause as the F-15s returned, landing one by one on the deck, wings folding like tired birds coming home. Pilots climbed out of cockpits, sweat streaking their faces, their bodies trembling with adrenaline. Some smiled, others remained stoic, but every one of them knew they had just been part of something extraordinary. What should have been an overwhelming attack had been turned into a showcase of discipline, technology, and sheer courage. News of the confrontation spread within hours. Headlines screamed across the globe: U.S. fighters destroy drone swarm in daring aerial battle. Footage released by the Navy showed contrails arcing against the sky, explosions bursting in the clouds, and the unmistakable silhouette of F-15s dominating the battlefield. Analysts on television marveled at the scale and intensity of the interception. Never before had a dozen manned fighters faced off against such a coordinated swarm, and never before had the outcome been so decisive. But alongside the praise came unease. If 30 drones could be launched at once, what about 50? 100? What would happen next time, when the swarm was larger, faster, and armed with more destructive payloads? Inside classified briefings, military leaders dissected every detail. The success of the F-15 pilots was undeniable, but so too was the warning. The future of warfare was here, and it was autonomous. The drones had been expendable, sent into battle without fear or hesitation. The only thing standing between them and devastating losses had been the skill of a handful of pilots and the cutting edge of American air power. Next time, the odds might shift. For the pilots themselves, the memory lingered. They spoke of the moment their radars lit up with 30 hostile blips, of the feeling in their guts as they dived into the swarm, of tracers and fire filling the sky. Some described it as exhilarating, others as terrifying, all as unforgettable. They had faced the future of combat head-on and emerged victorious. Yet every one of them knew the story wasn't over. This was just the beginning of a new kind of war, one where man and machine would clash not just in the skies above the Mediterranean, but everywhere.